Of the neighboring state of New Mexico. Governor Richardson, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Rachel.
I know that you were not in favor of this bill being signed by the Arizona governor today. What's your reaction to her decision to make this Arizona law?
Well, I'm extremely disappointed. I think it hurts the democratic values of this country. It's impractical. It's not reform. It's unenforceable. It's going to spur racial profiling. My hope is that the Obama administration looks at the legality of this bill, which, in my judgment, clearly usurps federal powers, and does something about it. But they'll have to decide that. I know Governor Brewer. She's a good person. I flew over our joint borders with her about 10 days ago. We have the same problem. We need more National Guard on the border. We need more law enforcement. In my view, we don't need a fence, but we need to protect our borders. There's been more border violence because of the drug cartels that are almost out of control. And so Arizona has a serious problem. New Mexico's is less so. But I'm sad today. I just think that this is a very bad bill. You know, close to, I don't know what percent of Arizonans are Hispanic, maybe 20 to 30%. You know, if somebody Hispanic looking is driving, there's a real risk by a law enforcement officer who is only trying to do their job to ask that person that might be an American citizen but just isn't carrying their paperwork. You know, look, I love to go to Arizona. I'm a Arizona Diamondbacks baseball fan. If I go there, I'm just concerned with my beard. I'm the only Hispanic governor. They're going to ask me for my papers. You know, this just doesn't make sense. And hopefully there will spur, what this will spur, Rachel, is what the Congress has failed to do, and that is comprehensive immigration reform, an earned legalization program, accountability where the 11 million that are here speak English, prove that they have a viable background check, get in back of the line. We do need more border enforcement, an employer verification system. You know, the Congress has been sitting on this for years. It's not just Democratic administrations, but Republican administrations. George Bush tried to do this too. But this is a sad day for democracy in America.
When President Obama spoke out against this legislation today in Arizona, he brought it up unprompted at a citizenship ceremony for members of the armed services, people on active duty who were becoming citizens, although they're already active duty members of our armed forces. And President Obama's comments were essentially that states are taking actions like this, some of them smart, some of them not smart, as the way he characterized Arizona's, because the federal government hasn't gotten around to comprehensive reform. Did you take that as a signal that immigration reform is now on the front burner for this Congress and it is going to happen?
Well, the president has to take the lead, and I was very pleased with his comments and the comments lately that he is going to put comprehensive immigration as a major priority. Now, we also have the need to create jobs and deal with the economy, and now they're on financial regulation. But I think this action of Arizona is going to spur the Congress, hopefully, to act, and to act soon, because we really need it. It's not just in border states. You've got undocumented workers. You've got 11 million immigrants in America working on jobs and schools. You need to give them an opportunity to come out of the shadows. But I'm not talking, Rachel, about giving them citizenship. Give them the opportunity to get some kind of legal status if they pass a background check, if they speak English, if they find ways to merge with the community, and then get back to the back of the line of those that are trying to come in legally. If we don't do this, you're going to have situations like Arizona taking basically action in their own hands, and I don't believe their action is going to stand a legal standing, because these are federal responsibilities. The federal government has to deal with this problem, and it's failed to do it.
Democratic Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico, thank you very much for your time tonight, sir. Really appreciate it. Still to come, Sinead O'Connor is our guest for the interview tonight. Also, a really bad idea from the Obama administration about really big weapons, and more from the Chickens for Healthcare headlines. It's all to come this hour.
I want to thank you all for being here today, and hope that we meet again on better circumstances, maybe.
With the very first Senate vote on financial reform slated for Monday, and with Republicans still threatening to filibuster, expect over the weekend to hear a lot of speculation about what's going to happen with that vote, because that's what's happening on the surface of the Republican versus Democrat Washington fight on Wall Street reform. Underneath that surface, though, things are way more interesting than that. And by interesting, I mean gross. Do you remember Rick Berman? We've talked a lot about him on the show. We had him here as a guest. He's the guy who refuses to name whoever's funding him. But he's made a career of setting up websites like fishscam.com, which makes the case that mercury in fish really isn't actually bad for you. Or sunlightscam.com, which says that tanning beds are good for you. Or transfatfacts.com. This one's my favorite. It says trans fats actually unclog your arteries. Nurse, get that patient a deep-fried Twinkie stat. Rick Berman is the king of this stuff. He's the guy who will take money from anyone to try to muddy the waters and confuse all the facts to keep Americans buying things that are going to kill them. He loves to go after watchdog groups in particular to try to discredit them and harass them. It looks like his newest campaign is actually trying to smear the Humane Society, of all things. Yeah. One of Rick Berman's all but patented techniques is creating a fake organization that uses almost exactly the same name as a legitimate organization, and then you use the fake one to attack the real one. It's deliberate confusion. Here's how it works. Take, for example, the Center for Science in the Public Interest, CSPI. It's a nonprofit that focuses on healthy eating and food safety. Their main website is cispinet.org. Their website for kids is smartmouth.org. Rick Berman's front group for the food and beverage industry a couple of years ago bought a couple of domain names. Instead of cispinet.org, the real website, Berman bought cispinet.com. And instead of the real website, smartmouth.org, with a hyphen between smart and mouth, Rick Berman bought smartmouth.org without the hyphen. So if you were looking for CISPI or their kids site and you typed in .com instead of .org, Rick would get you to go to an anti-CISPI website, all about how evil CISPI is. The CISPI Kids website, where they caught you if you forgot to type in the hyphen, that would redirect you elsewhere as well. It's pure Rick Berman. You use similar names, the same acronyms if you can. You use the same ones as the group that you're attacking. It's deliberately confusing, muddies the waters, confuses people. It uses the good name and reputation of a reputable group to smear people, smear those groups and confuse people about those groups. That tactic, that patented Rick Berman tactic, is being used right now to try to stop Wall Street reform. I want to introduce you to CRL, the Consumer Rights League. Sounds good, right? Consumers with rights having a league. Sounds great. That group founded in 2007, Consumer Rights League, CRL. CRL, also the acronym for the Center for Responsible Lending, founded nearly 30 years ago. They're a real consumer rights group associated with a rural credit union in North Carolina. They advocate against abusive financial practices like unauthorized overdrafts and payday lending. So there's the Center for Responsible Lending, which is a long-standing real consumer rights group. And then there's this new group with the exact same acronym, Consumer Rights League. And they're now organizing protests against the real group. Earlier this week, a bunch of protesters showed up at the Center for Responsible Lending's headquarters in Durham, North Carolina. They accused the group vaguely of corruption, although the protesters didn't seem to know too much about what the corruption was about. The protest was based on claims made by this other group with a very similar name. Right? Consumer Rights League. They were founded just a few years ago. For a time, they shared office space with Dick Armey's corporate-funded group, FreedomWorks. Like FreedomWorks and Americans for